Some significant government contribution, but there's no reason when they're ready why they can't be done as basically PPP projects. But I mean, the time's not there at present.
There's M4 East, M5 East duplication.
Each of the modes in Sydney requires significant development. They are projects on our horizon. I spoke a little while ago about taking the time to get the sequence of events right over a 30-year period, and we deal publicly with 4 and 5 year forward estimates periods, not 30-year periods at this stage. I think the key is the integrated transport plan that's being updated at the moment, and watch for future announcements, Chris.
Do you look back and lament that some of your political masters had the very ambitious M4 East? Had we gone modest 5 years ago, would we be driving on the road now?
Yeah, look, I remember the situation at the time. Some people take the view that you ought to bite off more than you can eat and chew like hell. And I don't think that's
Worry about the indigestion later, eh?
Worry about the indigestion.
I'm an indigestion kind of guy, Tom, with you, Les, but anyway. Any other last questions before we... Sonia.
Thanks very much. Sonia Lynham, Worley Parsons. I would be interested to hear from each of the members here because you each come from very different backgrounds, with Victoria having had a long history with John Patterson, as we heard, and integrating infrastructure and planning, and certainly from the time of Sid Schubert in Queensland, the role of the Coordinator General, and now the challenge that Les Wallinga has in terms of making sure that the delivery of infrastructure is also a resource and a capacity that he has within his organisation. And we've heard Mike Murdoch speak to us of a very good relationship in terms of infrastructure coordinators between Commonwealth and state. I wonder where each of the individuals here representing the big builders in the states, which are the transport agencies, what type of interface you would seek with the Commonwealth in relation to what everyone is talking about today, strategic planning, and how that is going to work. Thank you.
John?
I'll do this a little left field, but I'll have slide 126. I mean, we overwhelmingly welcome the Commonwealth's re-engagement with the urban environment, and I guess the terms of that engagement, and I should also say both establishment of Infrastructure Australia, but in particular the establishment of a cities unit in a really big city is important. One of the things that we actually need to encourage the Commonwealth to do is actually to develop their expertise to understand and influence what cities do more. I've put that up there for a reason, and the pattern may not be obvious to you. I've picked 3 of the most prominent examples of the world's most livable cities, and this is not about a Melbourne-Sydney ranking game.
Where's Brisbane?
Do you want the answer?
No.
Look, I have to say, in fairness to Adelaide, they were on the left-hand list in the previous year, so they're a little unlucky. The really big pattern there are 20 cities out of the 30 names on the list because some are duplicated, including Melbourne and Sydney, in more than one list. There are 13 cities up there that come out of 4 Western federations: Australia, Canada, Switzerland and Germany. And 5 others are actually European capitals with urban forms that we admire. I think actually one of the really, and I say this to people in Sydney too, because there's been some element of despondency in the discussion here today. The federal system of government has delivered, and I can't prove a causality here, but has delivered a disproportionate number of the most livable cities in the world. I don't fully understand why, but one of the really big challenges in engaging with the Commonwealth is how you capture the benefit of that. And the fact that we are able to produce such good cities, it means whether it's Sydney, Melbourne or Perth or indeed Adelaide or Brisbane, people get a much greater range of diverse opportunities to satisfy their lifestyles and other things. And I actually think whether it's for IPA or the engagement from IA or how Department of Infrastructure engages with the states, we've got to capture the benefits that the Federation and the 3 tiers of government brings to actually producing really good cities in world terms.
I'm just telling you, they haven't spent enough time in Zurich. You guys want to have a last dig before we wind up?
I think one of the you know, about getting on with the planning side of it in our state, you know, you talk about Schubert, going back in history, the Coordinator General's process within Queensland has been phenomenal, and particularly around fast-tracking projects and moving projects very quickly. And I think, again, you know, it's the recognition of the Australian government about cities, whether it's within the department itself or with Infrastructure Australia. I think that's a really positive thing. And, you know, we're very happy to get in there and share and work towards, you know, a national vision.
For me, it's fairly simple. All contracts and relationships are about obligations and the movement of money. And let's work out the obligations through the strategic planning process. Someone puts the money in the bank and we get on with the project. So we need to do enough to make sure that happens right.
Whoever said transport planning was a complex process. Look, in wrapping up, I think these guys, of all the travails they have to manage on a daily basis, you know, private versus public, federal versus state, a role for local government, whatever. Nowadays, as we've seen in the past week, they've got to avoid lobbyists at 50 paces also because they get caught in the other firestorms that come along. I think infrastructure is easy to talk about, and we've done a lot of it today, and it means a lot of things for a lot of different people. But I think between these three guys and the agencies they represent, they're probably the largest single influences of infrastructure in an Australian community. And if you throw Mike Murdoch in, that's 4 of them. So I think on your behalf, if I can thank the panellists, because I think we've seen today why we can have some confidence in the people taking forward those public sector views of infrastructure. We'll hopefully keep going in the right direction. Would you please join me in thanking our panellists?